HQ in Nashville, Tennessee to wherever you're cheering on your Tennessee Titans. The So Bros Network presents the Unofficial Titans Podcast.
Welcome back for another episode of the Unofficial Titans Podcast right here on So Bros Network. Mine's right, ass is tight. As I give you a little update on the state of the Unofficial Titans Podcast, it's your boy, the EIC at So Bros Network. 1/3 of Football and Other F Words, 1/2 of the Hot Read Podcast, Tennessee Titans and NFL Draft Analyst for Stacking the Inbox. I have suddenly become a man of many hats. And that is the largest reason why it's been quite a while. I think the last 6 weeks or so, it's been head on a swivel, stand and be ready to pivot around Sobros HQ. A lot of stuff's going on, and you haven't gotten an episode of the Unofficial Titans Podcast. Now, a few of you have reached out to me, and you've said, like, hey, all these changes going on in the Nashville sports media landscape, what does this mean for the Unofficial Titans Podcast? And I apologize. I've kind of left you guys on red. My intent was not to go this long without an episode at all, but it's one of those situations where time flies, things become a blur, you get busy, and you just kind of forget to circle back on it. And I let it slip through the cracks, but I wanted to just sit down and talk to you guys about where I'm at personally, where this show is at, and where Sobros Network is at as a whole, because things are a little in flux right now. And I think if you do this long enough, then you kind of learn that things aren't going to stay the way that they are forever. It's just the natural progression of things. And even back in June, July, I'm running analytics on Sobros Network month in and month out, and I'm looking at what's going on, and I'm just saying, man, I think after 11 years of this, like, it might be time to freshen some things up. And I'm not the, got a big announcement kind of guy. Like, I'm more or less just, hey, let's put things into place and then tell people once it's live kind of deal. But I was kind of mulling this over, like, some things kind of need to change around Sobros Network. It's not a bad thing. It's just an evolution kind of thing. You adapt and survive in advance sort of deal. And I think that there are many things that run their course in this business. You can do something that is wildly popular, and then 4 months later, when people are kind of over the bit, it falls off. It tails off. So I was looking at some things like that and saying we gotta shake some things up around here. I've been working on a few things with Brandon. I talked to Rooster, McCash, the team, kind of like going through this. Hey, something's got to give a little bit, right? Formulate a plan, and the next thing I know, I hear from my buddy Zach Lyons that I got the job. There's an announcement on 104.5 The Zone. I'm going to be on Blaine and Zach 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday. And so that's wild news to think, like, what Zach has done with Football and Other F Words and Stacking the Inbox and a football show, parlaying that into the gig with 104.5 The Zone. I mean, it's inspiring for people like us that do what we do for so long that, you know, you have to kind of eat shit for a long time just to get a foot in the door, right? And for him to really make it like that was inspiring. But then we start talking about, well, shit, what's going to happen to Stacking the Inbox? And I know he's in a position where he's trying to adjust to a new routine, hasn't been able to write as much, so we have to kind of adjust, right? And so I tell him, like, hey, what if I just moved all of my Titans content to Stacking the Inbox? He says, yes, let's do it. He says, well, what do you think about maybe we get JT on board for a weekly column? I'm Like, hell yeah, I fucking love JT. JT's a grinder. JT is the future of this space, I dare say. We get the value back to the subscribers, right? You add a little bit more for me, you add JT, it kind of cushions the blow as we kind of figure out like how Zach adjusts to this new role. And then we hear Easton Freeze gets picked up by A to Z Sports. So now at 4:40, we've got a hole on the Hot Read podcast, a hole on the football show, and Braden comes to me and he's like, hey, would you do Hot Read? And I'm like, fuck yes, I would do Hot Read. Me and JT on the air, that's going to crush, right? So Zach comes back and he's like, oh, 104.5, they're going to let us keep doing football and other F words. And now all of a sudden I'm doing the Hot Read podcast. And we talked to JT and it's like, yeah, we're going to do Tuesdays and Fridays. So all of a sudden, I'm taking on more responsibility with Stacking the Inbox. I'm taking on more responsibility with 440 Sports, and we're still doing football and other F words. On top of the return of the college football roundup on Sobros Network, I'm still doing Phone It In every other Mondays. Still working on the VixFlix podcast, the Movie Review Rewind podcast, Drinking with Stephen McCash. All this stuff is still on the table from Sobros Network, and I'm suddenly looking around like, man, I can't fucking do all this. There's just not enough hours in the day. And for those that don't know, I don't do this full time. I would absolutely love to do this full time, but right now I got to have a day job to pay the bills, right? This is not a full-time thing for me. Well, I mean, full-time in hours, but probably not full-time in pay kind of deal. So I'm looking at all this and I can't take the burden of everything on my shoulders, right? It's you try to push through. I've always prided myself on my ability to just like block everything I'm feeling physically and emotionally out and just write and just produce and just talk into a microphone. I don't know what that says about me. I probably should be seeing a therapist, that I'm just like block every feeling you have out and just do this thing. It's probably not a good habit to be in, but I started to notice this summer that I'm having trouble doing that. And so then I start looking at ways that I can cut some of the extra work out, and that's been part of the process. It's been streamlining some stuff. It's been kind of fine-tuning other things and coming up with a plan for me to adjust to the sudden busyness that my life has, right? There's one day a week that I don't have anything, and it's Thursday night, and that space is dedicated to my mother. I go out to Gladeville on Thursday nights. I take her out to dinner. Sometimes she cooks dinner for me. I do things around the house for her that need to be done, and that's that. You know, I gotta make sure that she's okay. And that time is good for me because that's my decompression time, to go home for a little bit and just relax. So I don't touch that night. But I got something Monday, Tuesday, I got 2 things Wednesday, and I got Friday. So it's a lot of work, and it's taken me about 6 weeks to kind of get my feet beneath me and get adjusted to a new schedule and get in tune with that, get into a rhythm to a point where I feel comfortable starting to revisit some of the ideas that we had formulated throughout the summer. And I feel like I'm in a place now where I got a good rhythm going with JT, got a good rhythm going with Stacking the Inbox, with football and other F words. And so I just wanted to take a few moments to get all of that out and let you guys know that it's not a goodbye for the Unofficial Titans podcast. There may be weeks where I'm busy and Owen has work and we just can't get it done that week. You might not get weekly episodes, but I do think that the goal is to get back onto the airwaves, so to speak, here and there wherever we can. Because, man, I know you guys like to hear from Owen. I see the tweets, I get the messages, I get the texts, like, what's going on here? Like, where's Owen? We need the Owen take for this. We need the positivity that Owen can bring for this team right now. And I don't want to take that from you guys. I don't want to take that from Owen, who loves this team and loves to talk about this team. it's just been on me to kind of find a way to make everything work. And I blinked and 6 weeks or so had passed. So that's where we're at, man. This is not a goodbye situation. It's just a, hey, here's where we've been. Here's what the plan is. And moving forward, I think you will start to see us pop up a little bit more as I continue to get used to my new living, working situation. Thank you guys for all your support of the Unofficial Titans podcast. I'm going to get on out of here today. My thoughts on this Colts game, you can hear them on Football and Other F Words. You can hear me on the Hot Read podcast tomorrow. I've got a piece coming to Stack in the Inbox tomorrow morning. A lot of work out there these days. I just wrote about the Alabama-Georgia game, scouting that from an NFL perspective. 7 evaluations in that piece. It's a doozy. That's up on stackingtheinbox.com as well. Thank you guys for your continued support of So Bros Network. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you take in your shows. And until next week, until next time, I don't know if it's going to be next week. Until next time, you stay classy, Nashville.